Canada is the MAID capital of the world. Educated estimates say that since medically assisted suicide was made legal in 2016, MAID doctors in this country have now killed over 60,000 people. People who go to hospitals for treatment are regularly offered MAID as an option, but in reality it is pushed on them and they are pressured to accept it. In 2027, Track 2 for MAID will become law. Track 2 will allow MAID for mental illnesses, people who do not have a medical issue and for whom death is definitely not imminent, up to and including simple depression. And the legislation has already been passed. Trudeau simply put a hold on implementing it, as he knew it would affect his party's chances in the next election. But those are just the parts they're telling you about. They also want to bring in MAID for our children. They call them mature minors, but there is no legal minimum age. 2 years ago, the president of the Quebec College of Physicians and Surgeons was recording talking openly about their plans for this, and you will see that clip in this interview. Assisted suicide for our kids, and parents will have no say. It will be done on the opinion of a single doctor. But it gets worse. They also want it for babies, essentially erasing the line for abortion between babies still in the womb and those who have been born. If you don't believe me, once again, Dr. Louis Waugh, the president of CMQ, can be seen openly discussing this in the clip you will see in this interview. Angelina Ireland of the Delta Hospice Society has been working hard to raise awareness for this and to provide people with a sanctuary where they can receive palliative care, free from the threat of being killed by their doctor. She joins me today to explain what is really behind this agenda and just how cheap human life will become in our country if we don't put a stop to this. Angelina, welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me, Will.
And you and I have done a number of these interviews now talking about MAID. And, we both know the agenda, where they're heading with this, and we'll discuss this in this interview. But as much as I have too been keeping my finger on the pulse of this, I was shocked when this morning you sent me a short clip from an online meeting of the Quebec College of Physicians and Surgeons, the CMQ, from 2 years ago. And that's very important, folks. Note this is from 2 years ago. Dr. Louis Waugh, who I know was the president at the time, I don't know if he still is. I found it very interesting when I went to the CMQ website. While parts of it are only available in French, and I speak very little French, I could not find the board of directors. They don't seem to want us to know who they are. But anyways, folks, we're going to run that very short video for you right now.
Third, minors from 14 to 7 years of age, nearly 18. The committee recommends, and the board of directors supports as well, that these minors could, with their tutors or parental parent, could make a request for MAID based on the level of persistent and intolerable suffering that they may experience and become unmanageable and senseless. The same for babies from 0 to 1 years of age who are born with severe deformations, very grave and severe syndromes, medical syndromes, whose life expectancy and level of suffering are such that it would make sense to ensure that they do not suffer, given that their possibility of surviving is basically nil. And this is something that has been used in the Netherlands as an argument, and we could explore that option. Finally, the committee addressed the issue of elders who are feeling, tired of being alive. Sometimes what we in geriatric care call, sliding into existential suffering or emptiness, who's are very fragile, whose physical abilities are so debilitated that the very fact that they're still alive becomes a real strain on them. So we feel that this is a topic that's a sensitive one, of course. People in general aren't quite sure how to approach this. We don't have a clear answer for these cases, but we would like to continue researching this with specialists and with Canadians in general to be able to think when for such people who are simply extremely frail and tired of
babies, children 0 to 4 and up. I don't even know where to start. So I'm going to let you.
Well, Canada is about to cross the Rubicon. And we must do everything that we can so that doesn't happen. The agenda has started years ago, and I'll call it Empire Made. Empire Made is always about conquest. And this is, in the words of Dr. George L'Esperance, who's a neurosurgeon and president of the Right to Die with Dignity Quebec, mature minors is the next battle.
Yes.
And so when you look into this, you can see that since 2018, they've been plotting to figure out how to kill our children. And I'm going to bring your attention to this report called The State of Knowledge on Medical Assistance in Dying for Mature Minors. Here it is, 200 pages. Now, why would you need an expert panel working group on MAID for mature minors? What would be the point of that? And so when you go through this publication, it becomes very evident that the strategy is to get the experts. To get the experts on board so that parents and the general public and anybody with a inkling of conscience won't be able to speak against it. So I'm going through this thing, and there's like 6 pages of experts that range from neurosurgeons to doctors to lawyers to professors to dentists and psychiatrists. Put their name on this, right? Just to tell us that in fact, the upshot of it all is that mature minors, there is really no age to maturity. Not only that, but it's only the professionals and the experts who can decide when someone is a mature minor. And that mature minors should have the right to decide to have MAID.
Well, let's call it what it is. The right to suicide.
Well, the
Doctors
right to be
assist
killed
suicide.
by the state.
Right. Yes. As I said, I've been doing my own, keeping my finger on the pulse of this. So what they're talking about here is a system whereby the parent has no say. All they need is a doctor to say, this is a mature minor, and we're going to kill them. And
Yes.
we had this discussion a couple of years ago, I think the very first time I interviewed you, because we both saw where this was going. And my fear at the time, and it's looking like they're trying to make this happen, is this will get to the point where the first thing a parent is going to know about this is they're going to get a call from the hospital saying, come pick up the body.
And that would only be a courtesy, to be honest.
Yeah.
Listen, parental rights in Canada have been destroyed. And they have been destroyed with the Trojan horse of gender ideology. We have seen how mature minors, in conjunction with their doctors, can decide to transition at the age of 12. And any parent that stands in the way of that can go to prison. In fact, parents have gone to prison in this country. Now, everything has been anonymized, but we'll look at the case of AB versus CD, where that father objected to his child, who was born a girl, transitioning medically. And that father, who was told to shut up, who was gagged, everything anonymized, the doctors anonymized, the child anonymized, the parents anonymized. Everything put under a gag order and sealed. When that father refused to be quiet, he ended up with a 6-month prison sentence. And he went to jail. Then came in Bill C-4, I believe it was, where the federal government, under the auspices of conversion therapy, basically legislated it. You'll go to jail if you stand in the way of the doctor and the child determining what the state policy is going to be. So, that ship has sailed. Parental rights in Canada have been decimated, in my opinion, but this is just a piece of the puzzle, because then who's going to protect the children? It can't be the parents. They won't be allowed to protect their children.
And as
and then
you say,
you look.
This is, you're absolutely right. This is completely linked to the transgender narrative. And I'm going to throw out a little statistic here that most people don't know, but I have this directly from Dr. Miriam Grossman, who appeared in the documentary, What is a Woman? And I interviewed her not long ago. And her entire practice now is helping families deal with kids who've decided they're trans. And it's very important to note that she's been practicing for about 30 years. Up until 20 years ago, she had never seen a single case of gender dysphoria. It did not exist. It shouldn't say it didn't exist. To be accurate, to quote Dr. Grossman, it was 1 in 50,000 people who had genuine gender dysphoria. Now, it is her entire practice. And so I want to link that to this statistic that I got from her, because the trans pro activists are fond of saying, well, kids aren't allowed to transition, have a 16 times higher suicide rate. That is an outright lie. The actual data is completely the opposite. Those who transition as teenagers have a 19 times higher suicide rate than kids who don't. And so they brainwash them with this crap. They go through this procedure. They realize what they've done to themselves, that it is not reversible, that they're now sterile, that they look kind of like Frankenstein's monster. And not, obviously, we're not going to put up any naked pictures of people who've transitioned, but go look it up. It does not look normal at all. And then they reach this point of despair. Oh, well, we'll kill you now.
Right. And that's where it all comes together, right? That's where the destruction of parental rights is so concerning when it comes to euthanasia and our children.